Good morning, everybody. My name is Tony Khounmano, and welcome to Local Artists Live with the Montgomery Museum of Fine Arts. Today, I'll be talking a little bit about my art and also showcasing some of my pieces and techniques that I've used. I am an Alabama-born Southerner. My parents are actually immigrants, and they immigrated in the late '70s. And I was born in Decatur, where my art journey started. I had a great high school art teacher named Miss McDonald, who highly encouraged me. So if you're an art educator, or if you're an educator in general, thank you so much. Hey Tara, thank you so much for being there and mentoring that artistic aspect of life. It's so important to engender that sort of creativity in young people. My art teacher, as one of the graduation presents she gave me, she for my sophomore year, I think, was oil pastels, which remains one of my favorite mediums to use, because you get to use your hand to get messy. Oh, and my little kitten girl's here too to help explain all about art. But oil pastels started my journey into oils themselves. I love oil painting. There's just this fantastic feeling you get when you put brush to canvas. And my secondary medium would be... Hold on. She may have to go out in 1 second. Sorry about that. Oil is my primary medium, graphite being my secondary medium, graphite and charcoal. I usually do somewhat directly representational works, a lot of landscapes. Over here on this wall, this one is mine. This is one of my friend's pours, acrylic pours. This is a Georgia O'Keeffe Master Copy down here that's in progress. And then behind me, we have some of my non-objective work along with another Georgia O'Keeffe Master Copy. These are going to be gifts for a friend. But the majority of my work when I started out, well, I was a big nerd when I was in high school, so I wanted to draw a lot of cartoons and anime. So I did a lot of fantasy art, and some of my favorite artists when it comes to that are Boris Vallejo and Julie Bell, who did a lot of these 80s He-Man-esque musculature fantasy art things. And so that's the majority of how I started. But in my art and education journey, I studied some of the different mediums. They make you do 3D. They make you do drawing too, and experimentations with different media. And so I found this absolute love for oil painting. So in my corner over here, 1 second, let me pull you over here. You can see my sorry, it's hard to position this camera. My art box over here with all of my oil paints that I have accumulated over the years. And then along the wall here, you see a lot of my implements for graphite and charcoal when I'm doing work on paper. I usually like to outline, so I get compulsive and I make things really neat looking. Some of my graphite, well, also ink work. This is one of my series that I started where I'm taking fantasy characters that are original to various things, and yes, I try and be organized, Sonny. And I'm putting them in a playing card format as the suits of the cards. Another of series that I had been working on for a friend. He is creating a trading card game that involves bugs as fantasy characters. In this one, you can see he's kind of a priest slash lord. This is based on an ant that's been infested by a fungus called cordyceps, and so it's got lots of growth coming out of it, and part of the growth makes his crown. Um, I'm really not that organized. I cleaned up especially for y'all because I just wanted y'all to see how things start. If I panned over to the right, you would see the absolute mess that was on top of this desk here. Um, and then another one of my series, I'm actually doing tarot cards in my fantasy characters as well, and this is the majority of my work. In the art talks that I've been going to for the Montgomery Museum of Fine Arts, I've showcased a lot of my non-objective work, which is a lot of fun because, in my opinion, seeing what people bring to non-objective art is really, a huge aspect of community. And my parents, when they immigrated, just tried to instill a great aspect of community. And thank you for Laura and all of the artists from the Montgomery Museum of Fine Arts and the art talks that have encouraged and critiqued and hadn't been wonderful during those talks. It was something I didn't realize that I'd missed from my art school, is just being a part of a community and just talking about art. And I'm very happy to see that the community itself is booming, honestly. Just hiding away, kinda. No, I don't want to say hiding away, but I didn't know about it until Laura had contacted me. Oh, yes, Tara. Tarot and playing cards are a big part of my impetus for making series because I have a lack of direction sometimes, so the cards give me a roadmap of what to do. But oh, thank you, Laura, and Sunny. But community, yeah. Let me go back a couple steps. Community is amazing, just amazing. And I took Tanner to see the museum yesterday and see all of the works there, especially in the art hall, which I found out was not supposed to hang art. I found out last night that it wasn't supposed to hang art, but I'm severely glad that it's such an open and welcoming space for artists now. But for this other series, on tarot, here are some of my preliminary sketches, and we're going to look at this one right here, which is the Magician. I'm sorry you get to see a close-up of my mouth when I bring this up close. This one's in progress, but this is typical of all of my works with ink and graphite. So I get very detailed, I get very zoomed in and oriented on things like that, and that's why I do these. I showcased this one in the last art talk. I do palette dumps. You can honestly see it a lot better in this image here, but these were palette tests for a client. I needed a visual to show him so that he could decide what exactly coolness and blue that he wanted in the palette of the piece. And that's the piece that's actually in my interview questions on the Montgomery Museum of Fine Arts website. So that blue piece stemmed from these palettes here. It's a non-objective piece, but the client had a specific request because of a mental condition that his synapses confuse, and he connotates emotions with colors. Synesthesia, I'm sorry, that's the word, synesthesia. So colors can actually make them feel either like highly emotional or relaxed. So blue is the relaxed color, and that's why that's palettes there. But I had this canvas left over, and of course I always have oils left over because I don't like opening my oil bottles and then reopening them to add more color to the palette. So I just like squirt, and I don't like wasting. I don't like wasting media. So at the end of a piece, which, oops, sorry. That's why I had it next to this one. So this is the Georgia O'Keeffe master copy. That's also in progress. I'm sorry I don't have like super done things for y'all right now. But I used that violet and blue, and of course you need to have the complements for it on your palette so that you can neutralize colors and everything. And I took all of that leftover and I just smacked it on here. Part of it with brush, part of it with palette knife. And usually my non-objective art also is an exploration in texture, which is down here. It's not as intense of a texture as some of my other non-objective pieces, but it is a rather nice palette. Let me grab my other palette dump, and you can see a lot of, the texture that's on here. So this one has an extreme amount of texture because I just caked on all of those oils for that palette dump. And the blue parts, those were not originally part of the palette dump, but once I put enough color on the canvas itself, I start picking out parts, like this fade back here. Originally, these structures here were just as dark as the structures in front, but I wanted to push them back in the background and try and get a sense of depth out of this non-objective piece. But that's a part of my process. Oops, dropping stuff. Sorry. That's a part of my process too, to help loosen up my mind after doing things like my very directly representational pieces, because if you render from life or from your brain of something that is based in reality, you kind of get stuck in that rut. And then for me personally, I get very very stuck, and then there's a point where I stop being able to create into that piece because I'm trying to force my art to work, and it just doesn't. So pieces like this and all the other palette dumps help me let my mind and its subconscious just go free and create more, because it's not confined to reality, if that makes sense. A little bit more about my art journey. I graduated high school, and then I went to Calhoun Community College, where this fantastic woman named Miss Catherine Vaughn was my intro to oils teacher. And she was basically, if you took Miss Frizzle and made her strictly an art teacher. I distinctly remember one of the times another student had asked her, Miss Vaughn, you really didn't give us a ton of direction for this non-objective piece. And she's like, I know. And she giggled and she ran off. She'd always be carrying like a pot of coffee around, caffeinating, but she was altogether wonderful. She let you explore the media and create so many wonderful pieces based off of, the first project we ever had was we took a whole bunch of objects and then created a drawing, and then we would excise parts of that drawing and create non-objective pieces to explore the various oil painting techniques, like palette knife painting and wipeout painting, where you throw down a layer of color and then use a rag and thinner to wipe out parts of it to create the values. I do love her. I don't know if she's retired or not. That was a while ago. There's a new art director for Calhoun Community College. Her name is Kimberly Parker. She is also amazing. She was my graphics teacher there. Yes, encouraging creativity on the artist terms, Tara. And she just let you explore the medium, and that was a very key factor in how I approach art now, is aside from rendering from real life, just letting my spirit just go into the art itself when I'm doing things that aren't directly representational. Oh, but yes, Miss Kimberly Parker, she is wonderful, kind, and encouraging, but also very sassy, so she'd give you just the right amount of critique to make you question things about your art and push you in the right direction that you needed to go for art. She is the program director there now, and she is fantastic. If you have anyone that lives in Decatur and is interested in art, highly recommend Calhoun Community College's art program. They have this beautiful new building in downtown Decatur. Well, I say new. It's about 5 or 6 years old. To me, that was literally. It literally feels like 2 years ago that I was there, but because it just, again, going back to educators, it informed such an incredible part of my personality that these people mentored into my psyche. Just the idea that you can be whoever you want to be, you can make whatever art you want to make as long as it's sincere and genuine. Sure, you have to learn these techniques and be grounded in how to use all this media, but the media is the tool, and you use the tool to express yourself. You use the tool to make your sort of home in the piece. And these educators, I don't understand how they can take 20 or 30 people in a room and still instill those values to the degree that they do, and I applaud anyone who is in an education field. I graduated, I transferred from Calhoun, and went to University of Montevallo, which was an altogether quite different experience, but a wonderful nonetheless. I had a very severe 3D arts teacher. Her name was Isabella, but me and my best friend at the school adored her because I remember every single thing she taught me, regardless of how, I say severe. She was no nonsense. She is the reason I'm so nice at critique now. Not nice, I want to say I'm so in-depth at critique. I like to be very pointed with my critique instead of objectively saying, oh, I like that. She would chastise us so much, like, you like it? You want to marry it? Like it's the 90s? But she did that because she wanted us to think critically about the aspects of art so that we could talk about it with other artists. Like, what parts of this piece created aesthetically pleasing? What parts of it are dynamic? Does it have high contrast? Is the texture pleasing? She wanted us to use our art vocabulary instead of just our regular vocabulary of aesthetic feeling. It was rough, I'm not gonna lie, it was rough, because when you're 18, well, I wasn't 18, I was like 21, 22 then, but there were other 18-year-olds in there. When you have a teacher who's like chastising, he's like, you like it, huh? And you're not used to that honest abrasion, but I feel like the art community has like either people who are very, very nice about critique and don't really say what their mind, and then you have the other side who is super abrasive and only exists to be kind of be petty, but like you find the people in the middle, and those are the ones that you have a really good effect on your artist. And Isabella was more on that severe side, but I enjoyed it because it made me critically re-examine how I approach art and how I can benefit others with the way I talk about art. Because if I'm just giving you platitudes... Hold on, I'm trying to read to specifics of... Yes, Tara, specifics of what you see, not opinion. Sometimes opinion is good, if you can back it up as to why you feel that way. But if you're just offering a platitude, it's like, oh, I like that. It's like, thank you for your kindness, but what about it do you like? Is what Isabella was trying to get us to explain. Oh, let me check my time real quick. Okay. Sorry, I can talk all day about critiquing and how beneficial it is for an outside perspective on your own art. Again, Art Talk has been fantastic about seeing people's outside perspective on my art, and again, something I very much miss, because you can stare at something for so long and you know what's supposed to be there. It's like typos in when you're writing emails or texts, or writing anything really. Oh, thank you, Tara. I would love to teach art. Unfortunately, I'm not a huge scholastic, so I didn't really do great when it came to the scholastic part of university. Um, but encouraging people and giving people the tools necessary to explore life are a huge part of why I do anything in life, really. Uh, I'm just like leaning over here like I'm the Tower of Pisa, but no, I would love to teach. That was honestly one of my dreams when I was going to Calhoun, is because Catherine Vaughn, Chris Beadle, and Kimberly Parker were such huge factors in developing my artistic personality and a little bit of my worldly personality too, that I wanted to give people that same kind of tools by mentoring them too, so that they could experience life to the fullest, honestly. And art for me is exploration. It is expressing the things you feel in life. Some people use music, some people use words, some people use their voice, and I think that's something that in this digital age it's tough to rekindle, because you have access to so much information and media that you don't get to express your own voice. And to me that's a shame, because people are so unique, and if everyone had that chance to express themselves with any kind of art, not just the physical medias here, but any kind of expressive condition, I think the world would honestly be able to connect better. Some people do comedy, some people are funny, some people talk, some people counsel, and that's an art form itself too. And with the connectivity of the digital age, we kind of have, I don't want to say laziness, but it's kind of laziness where it's just like, oh, this person knows what I'm feeling and expressing, so I'm going to sort of claim that aspect. And I am a big resharer of memes on the internet, so that's kind of my aspect of that. It's like, oh, that's really funny, or that's really relevant, so I'm gonna reshare it to my social page. And I won't say that robs me of individuality. It's just like a collective individuality, sort of, which is also fascinating. But I feel like people who don't get that chance to explore a little bit, especially when the requirements for classes in university are like, you get one liberal arts class, or you get one art appreciation class, and you don't really get to delve into anything that is I don't want to say substantial, because I don't want to devalue the art appreciation classes, but there's such an emphasis on get through your cores, get through your electives that are necessary, that you need to have, and then say goodbye to that idea completely. And this is not just with art, but with many other subjects. At Montevallo, it's a liberal arts college. They do actually a pretty good job at sort of giving you a Renaissance education, where you learn a lot of different subjects. I learned a ton about U.S. and world history from Professor Holtquist at University of Montevallo, just in unique ways. We actually role-played a French Revolution sort of, what's it called, parliament, a French Revolution parliament, and understood specifically why it was so frustrating, because of the mentalities of each of the social castes and classes. And it's things like that allow you to delve into and explore all these aspects of life that I feel like the current governing education, not the mentors and the teachers themselves, because they, like every person that I've seen on an educator level, loves to forward that idea, But just as a country and as a system as a whole, we're like, get your education so you can get your job, not get your education so you can understand the world. And I feel like that is a huge detriment to how free someone can be to be their own person. Sorry, rant. But that's why it's so important to me, because art as an expression for my soul relieves that anxiety about the realness of the world. The world can just box you into this reality of this is how it is and this is how you have to think about the world, and creativity is an expression of how to break that box and dream beyond that box and wonder, what could be, and put that to a physical reality, just like that. And for example, like putting a fantasy character on a page, in a different world, a different story, because we all see those movies, those like the Marvel movies that create this gigantic fantasy world, and that's a culmination of artists on the actor level, on the pre-production level, on the directing level, on the cinematography level. You have to get all these artists together to create this incredible world that inspires people to dream bigger. And I try and bring that when I do my own art too, on a smaller scale. But when you get collectives together, and if we as a society and collective got together to create together, and when we do, big things happen. Big things that happen beyond all of us, because it's bigger than all of us. And I hope that one day that this interconnectivity will allow us to, with the internet and networking, and we have computers in our hand that are thousands times more powerful than the room-spanning computers of the 60s and 70s. And we have all this power in our hands to connect to each other, and there's so much divisiveness about how to connect and how to think, instead of celebrating some of the differences and similarities at the same time. And oh, thank you, Laura. I live my life trying to encourage people to connect to each other and be kind, and I try to do my best to do that myself, and sometimes my own self gets in the way. But the biggest results I've seen are not talking at someone, but talking with someone, and honestly listening to listen and not listening to respond. Those are the two huge key psychosociological things that I really learned in my late 20s and early 30s. I'm 35, by the way. I know some of you think like, what's this 20-year-old kid doing on here? But no, I'm 35, and when you live life, you learn that connecting to people is really important. That's why COVID has been really tough on me personally, because I used to be out and about all the time, connecting and engaging with everyone. Oh, Tara, thank you. I wouldn't say wise. I'm just experienced, and I recognize the experiences, good and terrible, are cumulative in my life, and I can't ignore the bad just for the good. And when you know how to approach the bad things, you can help others through it too. How does my art relate to that connectivity? For my fantasy art, I like people to dream with me, and I create these fantasy worlds and these characters and these storylines that I put to paper, that I want people to join me on this journey. Sort of like when you read a good book and you're in that world, you're with those characters, you're experiencing everything that they have to experience through that creativity. That's what I want for my art. It's like, I want you to be able to imagine yourself in this world with me, exploring this world and enjoying this world. As far as my non-objective art, when it comes to community, I like seeing what people see in a piece, because this is my subconscious, but what does your subconscious say, and what are you thinking? So it's more of a, so as this is a reflection of my subconscious, it can be a reflection of someone else's. Some people don't make non-objective art like that. It's not all like that. But for me personally, when people bring their own psyches to my sort of colorful mirror, that's reflecting their personalities, and then I get to hear, like, what are they feeling particularly about themselves, or about what does this piece make them feel. It's an aspect of, well, they've brought something from themselves to my piece, and thus we are connected because they see something in this piece of themselves. And I can see something that's similar, I can see something that's different, and that's why I like viewing abstracts and non-objectives with someone else and not just by myself, because I know how I feel about it, because I'm in my brain all the time, unfortunately. So I went with Tanner to the Museum of Fine Arts, and we looked at a lot of art. We saw a lot of renderings, we saw a lot of landscapes and portraiture, sculpture. The cast glass sculpture of the Asian garb was just insane to see, and I was explaining to Tanner about it, and how to cast things in general when it comes to molten materials, and he was just flabbergasted that something so beautiful and precise and perfect could come out like that. And then we would go to a non-objective piece, and he wouldn't necessarily be a fan of the piece itself, but having it juxtaposed with other pieces gives it kind of context too. And like explaining that sort of mentality when it comes to like approaching art to him would gave him a little bit of perspective, because it's hard to examine non-objective when you're not engrossed in that same vocabulary, which, you know, again, I'll say that approaching art with the right mindset and vocabulary is really important, because even if you don't like it, you could at least understand it, and that understanding connects you to that person. It's like, well, now I know why you think this way, and I may not necessarily agree, but I understand how you think. And there's this proliferation in independence, an independent thought of, my opinion should be the opinion that you have, which is called psychological projection. Like, why aren't you thinking the way I think? Instead of approaching it, it's like, well, how do you feel and think about this, and why does that make you think about this in that particular way? And I feel like artists, when we get together as a community, especially for critique, yes, Laura, and that's when we get together for a critique, it allows us to bring that to the table and attempt to understand each other. It's like, what does this piece mean? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to me? How am I seeing it and expressing it? And part of that critique is that what I meant to put in the piece, if it's a specific piece and it has a specific thesis for the piece. So what am I doing that is not translating well, and what could I translate better to get my point across, when you do have that sort of need to express a specific statement. So again, community being such a huge aspect of art, and of my parents are immigrants, and the social aspect of Southeast Asians is to be involved in your community. What am I doing for my community? How am I perceived in the community, as juxtaposed by sort of American sentiments of what can I do to forward myself without people? What am I doing on my own independence and cognizance to push forward? And Sorry, I went over a little bit. And if I had to boil down aspects, talk about it's my mom's from Laos, my dad's from Thailand, although he's ethnically Lao. He grew up along the border. His parents were both Lao and Thai-ish. They don't talk about that a lot because it was kind of a painful time for me because it was after the Vietnam War. But their experience and their perspective is something that I highly value because it was juxtaposed with my American education of independence. But if I had to choose something about it that really, really helped me grow as a person, is the idea of how am I connected to my community. And that's one of the things that I love about when Laura reached out to me and brought me into the Montgomery Arts fold, is that the community is there. It is there, and it's heavy, and it's very encouraging and entrenched. And yes, just our compassion so much. Everybody has been wonderful. Thank you, everybody who tuned in, and thank you for everybody who has given me critique or opportunity or even a chance, especially for here to speak about what drives me personally as an artist. And I appreciate you too, Laura. You're such a wonderful community manager and person too. Thank you for this opportunity again. And I hope all of you have a wonderful weekend. I hope you enjoy what little sun that we are about to get beneath these clouds. And I hope that you can enjoy life as much as I do, stemming from all this creativity and the minds behind it. I love y'all, and see y'all later.